Starting strong at number 7, we have the Dunbar armored robbery. Said to be the largest robbery to have occurred in the United States, that is, apart from the new iPhone. Alan Pace, a regional safety inspector at the Dunbar Armored Facility, orchestrated this meticulously planned robbery. Now Pace recruited 5 childhood friends: Damon Boyd, Eugene Lamar Hill Jr., Freddie McCrary, Terry Wayne, and Thomas Lee Johnson, providing them with detailed floor plans and camera locations. The day before the robbery, Pace was fired by Dunbar for tampering with a co-worker's company vehicles. And on Friday, September 12, 1997, Pace, along with a group of 6, assembled at a house party, to establish an alibi. They thereafter left for the robbery. Using his keys, Pace easily gained access to the facility, having timed security cameras and determined blind spots. The group waited in the staff cafeteria. At approximately 12:30 a.m., they ambushed guards and subdued employees, including the 2 vault guards, with duct tape, all without firing a single shot. Now, due to the large amounts of money being moved, the vault was usually left open on Friday night. Thus, Pace and the others gained access to the vault, and knowing the locations of the bags with the highest denominations, they loaded $18.9 million into a waiting U-Haul truck. He also knew where the recording devices for the security cameras were located, and he took them. The robbers then casually returned to the party after this successful heist. Now the police, suspecting this to be an inside job, closely examined Pace due to his recent firing, but found nothing initially. Investigators at the depot found a plastic tail light lens matching a U-Haul truck. The gang concealed their wealth for 6 months before attempting to launder the $18.9 million. 2 years later, Eugene Lamar Hill paid his friend, a real estate broker, with cash bound together with the original currency straps. Feeling suspicious, the broker reported the matter to the police. Detectives noticed Hill's U-Haul rental on the day of the robbery, and this led to his arrest. Hill confessed, revealing all co-conspirators and ultimately exposing the details of the elaborate heist. The Banco Rio robbery, 2006. In September 2004, Fernando Araujo, a 36-year-old visual artist, karate and jiu-jitsu teacher, began contemplating the idea of robbing a bank. And living in Acasuso at the time, he scouted for a nearby bank and found Banco Rio. Araujo approached an acquaintance from high school, Sebastian Garcia Bolster, who possessed technical skills and proficiency in handling mechanical tools. Despite not being close friends, Araujo knew Bolster's capabilities and proposed the idea to him. The two collaborated for months on planning the heist, but Araujo eventually gave up, seeing as it was almost impossible to pull it off. Weeks later, Araujo discovered a drain pipe just 10 blocks from the bank. Together with Bolster, he measured the blocks from each sewer cover to Banco Rio. Their primary goal was to breach the wall and soil to access the bank's vault. Now, facing constraints of time and money, Araujo sought additional help and enlisted El Doc, Alberto de la Torre, and Vitet Selanes. The group convened near the drain pipe adjacent to the bank, where Araujo and Bolster presented their progress, identified the target bank, and discussed the escape route. Over approximately a year, the criminals procured tools, diving equipment, boats, toy guns, and other necessities. They even developed a hydraulic tool dubbed the power cannon to crack open the bank's safety deposit boxes. Additionally, they explored the sewer system to ascertain potential escape routes, identifying an exit on Peru Street, just 14 blocks away. They acquired a modified Volkswagen Combi T1.5 van to transport the stolen money, with El Pesa designated as the driver. Another accomplice, El Nene, was included in the plan. On January 13th, 2006, around 12:20 p.m., El Doc and Alberto de la Torre entered Banco Rio, one in a grey suit and the other in an apron and wig. Vitet and El Nene entered the bank's parking lot in a Ford Escort at 12:30 p.m. Now, the 4 criminals entered through different entrances, subduing both customers and employees. The bank's security officer observed the situation via security cameras and alerted the Argentine Federal Police. Minutes later, Araujo entered, wearing a loose jacket and cap. By 12:50 p.m., Argentine media outlets were informed, and the bank had 23 hostages. Security employee Walter Serrano, the first hostage, was released around 2 p.m. after initial resistance. Vitet, known as the man in the grey suit, communicated with Miguel Sileo, the police negotiator, using the bank's security phone. Now, Vitet wanted to buy time. Miguel wanted hostages released. 4:30 p.m., Vitet contacted Sileo, requesting food and drink to buy more time for their escape, obviously. Now, having already opened 143 safety deposit boxes, the team began their escape through the drain. They then loaded the money bags onto 2 boats constructed by Bolster and traveled on the ground to Tres Sargentos and Libertad streets. After transferring the money to the van, they drove to a predetermined location to distribute the loot. The criminals went back to their hideouts and they put on their television, only to find that security agents were still waiting outside the bank. A hostage notified her sister outside the bank, prompting the Special Security Division Halcon to enter, only to find the perpetrators had fled. Police discovered a sign in the security vaults reading, "In the neighborhood of the wealthy, without weapons or grudges, it's only money, not love." It was only at 8:30 p.m. that the police discovered the tunnel through which the gang had escaped. In the tunnel, a dummy bomb planted by the assailants stopped the agent. It took another 2 hours before the explosives brigade discovered that it was fake. After distributing the stolen money, the thieves separated with the intention of never seeing each other again. The Brinksmats robbery, 1983, described as the crime of the century, maybe on par with tipping and taxes. The Brinksmats robbery took place on November 26, 1983 at the Heathrow International Trading Estate in London, UK, making it one of the largest heists in British history. The robbery unfolded at 6:40 a.m. on November 26, with 6 robbers, including Mickey McAvoy and Brian Robinson. And their entry was facilitated by security guard Anthony Black, who was involved in the scheme. Once inside, they poured petrol on the staff and lit a match to coerce them into revealing the vault's combination numbers. Expecting to steal around £1 million worth of Spanish pesetas, the robbers stumbled upon an unexpected treasure trove. It was just outside the main vault. Stored in cardboard boxes were 3 tons of pure gold bullion, along with 1,000 carats of diamonds, platinum, and $250,000 of travelers' checks. The total value of their haul, £26 million, equivalent to over £109 million today. For that kind of loot, I would pour petrol on the ice caps and I would burn that shit to the ground. Fuck global warming. 2 days after the heist, a couple in Bath, Somerset, noticed suspicious activity in a neighbor's garden hut and alerted the police. Despite their efforts, no immediate action was taken by the authorities. The police did nothing after a report. That never. Remember the security guard, Anthony Black? Well, subsequent investigations revealed connections between Black's sister and Brian Robinson, leading to Black's confession and the arrest of Robinson and McAvoy just 10 days after the robbery. Now, efforts by McAvoy to negotiate a reduced sentence in exchange for returning his share of the money were unsuccessful, as the funds had just disappeared. 3 fucking tons of gold, just gone, like KSI's hairline. Despite a record reward of £2 million offered for locating the gold, a significant portion remains unaccounted for. While some of the gold was eventually traced back to the legitimate market, some of it is believed to remain buried. Anthony Black received a 6-year sentence for his involvement in the robbery, while McAvoy and Robinson were sentenced to 25 years in prison. The Northern Bank robbery of 2004. On the night of Sunday 19 December 2004, groups of armed men arrived at the homes of 2 employees of Northern Bank, Belfast, Northern Ireland. Chris Ward was taken from his house in County Down and driven to Poleglass where Kevin McMullen, his supervisor at the bank, had been tied up by men disguised as officers from the police service of Northern Ireland. Gunmen remained at Ward's home, keeping his family hostage. McMullen's wife was taken from her home and held at some unknown location. 6 a.m. the next morning, the criminals left, having instructed McMullen and Ward to report for work as normal at the bank's headquarters. Now, the gang constantly kept in touch with the workers using mobile telephones they had been given. They were ordered to tell staff to go home early and to fill a bag with £1 million in £50 and £100 notes. Ward was then asked to leave the bank carrying the bag and go to a bus stop in nearby Upper Queen Street, where one of the robbers picked it up. Imagine their shock when the robbers told them that this was only a test run and that the real heist goes down later that evening. McMullen and Ward stayed behind at their workplace after business hours and were directed to transfer crates of bank notes onto trolleys. They informed the security personnel that they were moving out garbage for disposal, making multiple trips to transport the trolleys from the basement to the bullion bay, where money was usually picked up and dropped off. To conceal their action, they camouflaged the crates with office furniture and empty cardboard boxes. Upon receiving a call from Ward, the gang dispatched a white van to the premises, which security allowed to enter the bay. It took Ward and McMullen approximately 15 minutes to load all the items into the van. The criminals instructed Ward and McMullen to continue filling up more trolleys, promising to return for additional pickups. However, when the van returned, Ward and McMullen had only managed to fill up 2 more trolleys, which were then transported from the basement to the van. The 2 employees then secured the bank, activated alarms, and departed as usual. They drove to Ward's residence, where the masked men continued to watch over his family. At approximately 9 p.m., the criminals departed, meticulously removing any potential forensic evidence by wiping down surfaces and collecting any used cups. 20 minutes later, McMullen left and returned to his own home. Around this time, McMullen's wife was driven to Drumkeeran Forest and released. She sought help at a nearby house to alert authorities and received treatment for hypothermia. At 11 p.m., following his final instructions, Ward contacted the police to report the robbery. The criminals absconded with a total of £26.5 million, including £16.5 million in uncirculated Northern Bank pound sterling notes, £5.5 million in used Northern Bank sterling notes, and £4.5 million in used notes sourced from other banks. Now, while laundering the new and uncirculated notes would be foolish because the bank immediately released the serial numbers, the used notes, on the other hand, remained untraceable. In response, the Northern Bank announced plans to replace its 10, 20, 50 and £100 notes with new designs featuring different colors, logos, and altered serial numbers, a process completed by March 2005. Despite Ward's initial arrest and suspicion of being in cahoots with the robbers, he was subsequently acquitted due to insufficient evidence directly linking him to the heist. To this day, no individual has been directly held accountable for the robbery. The Knightsbridge Security Deposit Robbery of 1987. Enter Valerio Visei, Ferraris, loose women, and lavish spending. This Italian playboy was all for it. Wanted for over 50 armed robberies in Italy, he decided to test his cunning against a bigger opponent. Plus, the police were already on his ass. He fled to London in 1986, and in London, he swiftly resumed his criminal activities to sustain his extravagant lifestyle. With the help of Parvez Latif, the managing director of the center, who was a cocaine user balls deep in debt, Visei orchestrated the robbery at the Knightsbridge Safe Deposit Center. On the day of the heist, 2 men posing as customers entered the center and requested to rent a safe deposit box. Once inside the vault, they drew handguns, subdued the manager and guards, hung a sign on the street-level door explaining that the center was temporarily closed whilst letting in further accomplices. They proceeded to break open numerous safe deposit boxes, and escaped with an estimated £60 million worth of loot, which in today's rate will be over £211 million. An hour after the robbers left, the shift changed and the new staff discovered the crime, prompting them to alert the authorities. Police investigators recovered a bloody fingerprint belonging to Visay, leading to the arrest of several accomplices exactly a month after the incident. However, Visay managed to flee to Latin America. Upon returning to England to retrieve and ship his Ferrari Testarossa, Visay was apprehended by the police. He was sentenced to 22 years in Parkhurst Prison on the Isle of Wight. In 1992, Visay was deported to Italy to serve the remainder of his sentence in an open jail in Pescara, where he enjoyed a lifestyle similar to his previous one and often operated a translation company. On April 19, 2000, while on day release from prison, Visay engaged in a gunfight with the police, resulting in his death. The Banco Central burglary. On August 6, 2005, a gang of burglars successfully tunneled into Banco Central, the Brazilian central bank, responsible for controlling the money supply. They had stored the money in the vault for examination, so the bills were intentionally not numbered sequentially, making tracing nearly impossible. 3 months before the robbery, the criminals rented a city center property and began tunneling 78 meters beneath 2 city blocks to a position beneath the bank. The gang camouflaged their activities by posing as a landscaping company, renovating the property and even displaying a sign. Witnesses, estimating the gang size between 6 to 10 men, mistook the removal of van loads of soil as routine landscaping. The well-constructed tunnel, measuring about 70 square centimeters and running 4 meters beneath the surface, featured wood and plastic lining, along with lighting and air conditioning systems. During the final weekend, the gang breached 1.1 meters of steel-reinforced concrete to access the bank vault. Due to the significant volume and weight of the stolen money, a considerable amount of time was needed for removal and transport. The burglars skillfully circumvented the bank's internal alarms and sensors, and the heist remained undiscovered until the following Monday, when the bank opened for business. The criminals eventually made away with 5 containers filled with 50 real notes, totaling approximately $71.6 million at the 2005 exchange rate, equivalent to around $113 million today. Although the federal police have made multiple arrests, they are yet to recover even a fraction of the money. The Central Bank of Iraq robbery. March 18, 2003, 4 a.m. local time. 3 trucks departed from the Central Bank of Iraq carrying nearly $1 billion, a quarter of the country's currency reserves. The loot was taken by a team led by Qusay Hussein, the son of Iraqi dictator Saddam Hussein. The transfer was authorized by Saddam Hussein himself, anticipating the impending US-led invasion. On March 18, 2003, the air war that signaled the beginning of the US-led invasion of Iraq was set to begin the next day. Anticipating the American move, the dictator correctly predicted that once the air war began, it might be difficult for him to move about the country and get things done, so he sent his son to get a useful supply of liquid assets. Qusay arrived at the bank in Baghdad with nothing but a handwritten note from his father instructing the withdrawal of $1 billion in US greenbacks. Legal experts suggested that the withdrawal might not have been illegal, considering Saddam Hussein's absolute control over Iraq's governance and economic institutions. Saddam Hussein was an absolute dictator with direct control over every aspect of the country's governance, including the central bank. The $1 billion might even have been Saddam Hussein's own personal fund, collected over the course of more than 2 decades of ruling Iraq. Now, initially, American intelligence suspected that Hussein intended to transport the money over the border or use it to fund resistance within Iraq. Coalition forces managed to recover around $650 million from various caches, including one found in a palace used by Uday, Saddam's older son. Soon enough, Qusay was located in Mosul after resisting multiple raids by American forces. He and his brother Uday were turned in by one of the other guests in the house, who wanted a $30 million reward. American troops began firing anti-tank missiles into the house, eventually killing everyone inside. When they were finally able to search the premises, there was no sign of the remaining $350 million from the Iraqi central bank. No one has seen or heard of the money ever since.